Hey everyone, Dan here. We are just a minute or so before market close on Thursday, June 24th. Today we're going to take our daily look at SoFi. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also feel free to comment below with your thoughts, opinions, ideas, questions, those things I look at nightly, and they help myself and everyone else who watches the video after you. All right, so SoFi having another rough go of it today, trying to catch some support at these lower price zones that we have on the chart, 21.21 and then a flat $20. We see the volume did get up nicely today, but it has just been sort of succumbing to the selling pressure and down, closer to 3% than 2% at the moment. So another challenging day, but I want to point a couple things. So we had this purple bounce zone that we had charted the other day, and that's basically because, let me just get a proper zoom out here. There was this previous price activity here that sort of lines up with that box nicely. And so I'm looking for some bounce support there before it gets down to that $20 level. And, we might get to see if that plays out the way that we like it to here shortly. But if it can't hold there, I do think $20 is the next best support level. Obviously, this trend line was not able to be held up, so unfortunately we fell out of that as well as that channel that we had briefly. So right now it's certainly caught under the weight of this just ridiculous down day and just a slight recovery, almost like a bull flag here, a bear flag here that then just pulled the price down further. I want to take a look at the indicators before we get too far into it. So RSI hitting nearly oversold now. We see it was oversold back here when it had that giant sell-off a couple of days ago, and that did give it some buying pressure. So hoping for some repetition there. And then, yesterday, even with sort of like this greenish sideways action, wasn't able to muster anything even over the mid-range, not until the pre-market of today. So heading back down into oversold, and hopefully that provides some buying pressure as well as that bounce zone in purple. The MACD obviously looking pretty bearish at the moment. Did have nice bullish activity before market open, but then that died down basically immediately, certainly after the first hour at least, and then couldn't hold that 21.21 zone, and as soon as it caught resistance underneath, it's been on this trajectory toward this purple box ever since. So need this MACD to start closing the distance on the signal line. It is like well below the baseline now, so definitely gives it a bunch of opportunity to run up if it would like to, but it needs that bullish crossover, and not sort of like a wimpy kind of crossover like this, where it's relatively parallel still to the signal line, like it just sort of like smoothly crosses over. We want something like this that looks like the super abrupt, sharp, steep upturn. Those are the ones that tend to have, a more powerful, like this. Like that's a more steep run up. So that's what we want to see, something that's going to bring some power and fury into the price action of SoFi. If we take a look at the MAs today, fully in a bearish pattern. See how badly I wanted to be bullish? I just keep saying bullish when I mean bearish. Fully in this bearish formation right now, could provide some additional support if it can get back over this 21.21, and at that point, probably the 20 MA would swoop in and offer additional support and hopefully help carry it up. But, not a very solid day for the bulls in SoFi. Let's go ahead and transition over to the data in a minute. I want to talk about the short data that we normally talk about, but then I also want to take a look at what I think might have been a strong contributor to this run up here. Essentially, the activity that we see in this channel. What caused or what contributed to this run up here. I think I've identified something that we can continue to look for down the road, but I want to point that out as well as something sort of like new that we're looking at. Before I transition over to the data, I do want to mention a couple of things. One, if you are interested in helping share info about SoFi, get folks interested, if you enjoy these videos and would like to help me grow the channel, one super way to do that is to post these on Reddit or Twitter or Facebook or wherever you share stock information. That helps a ton. Also, if you're looking for brokers, there's a really cool broker that I use that I don't think a lot of folks know of. It's called Gatsby. I'm putting a link to that in the description below. And I'm also putting a link to Webull, which is the broker that I use that I am also charting on right now. So a lot of times folks say what software you're using to chart. This is the desktop app from Webull. So you could use the link below to sign up for them if you're not already using them. They have a wide range of broker offerings. Like, they're really good for a free broker. Gatsby to me is more of like a quick and smooth, like very modern UI, very easy to navigate. You can transact on it very, very quickly. It's also free. But to me, I use them completely differently. And then the other thing is the newsletter. So if you want to not only watch these videos and sort of like have touch points here, I'm collecting emails via a Google form right now because I haven't launched the newsletter yet, but I'm intending to in the next couple of months, and this way I'll have emails sort of queued up and ready to send out to. But that would be 1 or 2 emails a week, I'm thinking, of additional trade ideas, additional things to look for, interesting data points, some like uncoverings from investigations, that sort of thing. Okay, now that we're through all that, let's flip over to the data. So here we have the short volume ratio still staying very, very high. We had basically like 2 days of letting up on 614 and 615. But beyond that, for the entirety of the date ranges that are covered in this small grid, 610 to 623, everything has been in the mid 20s to the 30s, which is just very, very high. And this is why I've been saying all along, once we get the data updated to 614 data from 528 data, which is where it is currently, I think that we're going to see that there's a ton of short interest, even though there were so many more shares made available after the merger. Let's do a quick look at that, actually, just to make sure. Yep, still 528 data. Okay. So let's hit a refresh here on iBorrowDesk. Sometimes folks are wondering where this is coming from. This is a site called iBorrowDesk.com. From what I gleaned, it's just a person who set up a feed from Interactive Brokers to collect their fee and then display it on this site. And they just did it out of the goodness of their heart, I guess, which is why sometimes it sort of like does what we're seeing today, where it goes down and stays down. So we only have the first half an hour data today, but we see there was 50,000 shares returned overnight last night, and then another 5,000 borrowed back out at 9:30. But again, this is just from one broker dealer, just from Interactive Brokers. So spread that across all of the broker dealers across the board. This still just means the supply is incredibly low. The fee is incredibly high at the moment. So these are strong factors for shorts either needing super steep downturns like we're seeing right now. They need this type of activity happening in order to profit from those very expensively borrowed shares. Or it puts a ton of pressure on them if there is green activity in the stock, pushing the stock price higher, because the more underwater they get on their positions with a high fee, the harder it is to recover, obviously. And then that could trigger a slew of closing out, and a large or a narrow kind of short squeeze could ensue. Okay, so let me cue up the right time frame here again. Okay, so this is roughly correct. So this channel spans 615 to 621. Okay, and then it left the channel. Now let's pop over here and let's take a look at this. So this is the fails to deliver from IPOE. Okay, so before the merger happened, And what I want to look at is something I talked about in my Clover Health video from tonight as well, a prediction that I had made with Clover making a big jump up and sort of like using it as an experiment to see sort of like how these fails to deliver can influence the price of the stock once they sort of like come due. And so basically, I went over in that video some of the additional information. We can look at it quickly here. Aged fail. So basically, you're looking for fails to deliver to be settled within 30 days after the trade date. I then did some additional poking around, and it looks like they're talking about 30 calendar days, not trading days, which is part of my error in my original prediction. But now we can sort of just know better. That's why we do these experiments, to learn. So May 10th through May 20th, there were all these millions and millions of shares that were fails to deliver. And so those dates then follow on to be, well, let's just ask here. What's the date 30 days after May 10th, 2021?
It was Wednesday, June 9th.
All right, so looking at June 9th through June 19th, but I think that was a weekend. So June 9th through June 19th, they were having to cover. So if we scroll back here and we look, okay, so here's the 8th. So this would mean that from that first batch of fails to deliver here, and these aren't the only fails to deliver, obviously there's several back here, but these are the spikes over 1 million. So June 9th. So what happened leading up to June 9th? Well, there was this enormous run-up. Do we think that this could have been caused at the end of the day? I remember folks were running around going, what is this? What is this? And then there was some speculation that it was SoftBank coming in, but that seemed to be that was an old purchase. And folks were like, what is this? What is this? So we saw this huge run-up into even the pre-market the following day. You know, it was still some green candles in there. Was that folks who needed to deliver by the 9th, closing out those positions and delivering those shares by buying a bunch up, delivering them, and then turning around and taking short positions to push it back down? I think there's a strong possibility that that's the case. So that was June 9th. Then we have June 12th, 16th, 19th. June 12th is, June 12th was a weekend. So on the days leading up to the 12th, you have the 10th and the 11th as Thursday, Friday. We do see some running up here. Obviously nothing to the magnitude that we saw here, but what's the likelihood that a bunch of what we saw here was actually delivering on shares from the same broker-dealer that had failed to deliver, that were just closing out a bunch in advance of this dates, but we're additionally covering dates beyond that? I think it's pretty strong. So the 16th and the 19th, take a look at those next. So here's the 16th. So if you needed to cover by the 16th, we do see a bunch of running up here. And then, you know, what could have happened here again? Turn around, take more short positions, push it back down. And then on the 19th, that's where we see, that was a weekend. So the 18th here was a Friday, but we see this continuous run up to shorts that would have had to deliver, or broker dealers who would have had to deliver those shares prior to the 19th, and you had this big run up here in the days leading up to that. So that's what I'm going to say potentially played a big factor. Now, huge caveat here that this would, of course, depend on whether or not these broker dealers even care that any of these rules or regulations exist and that they abide by them, or how much they skirt them. And I'm sure there's probably a wide range in the vast slew of different broker dealers. But I did want to bring this to folks' attention, something that I'm going to be looking at quite consistently moving ahead. We don't have the fails to deliver from the first half of June yet, which would show the SoFi ticker instead of the IPOE ticker. But we should be getting those probably in the next week or so. And, we'll look for spikes on those days and then see what our 30 days out from that date is. Let's keep that in mind as we sort of try to decipher when there might be some unexplained, unexpected, huge run-ups, sort of that seem to come out of nowhere. But yeah, for now, the fight that we're fighting is on the chart, since that stretches through all of the really big spikes in share failed to deliver. Right now, it's a battle of will with the charts and with the additional shorts still coming in a high daily volume rate. And we'll see if this bounce zone holds. We see it stretch down just a smidge above where this starts. This starts at 2079. This stretched down to 2081 before close today. So we'll see if there was enough buying pressure there to push this back up to 2121 supports and try to get on a better path from this point forward. All right, well, good luck with, I guess, the last trading day of the week tomorrow. I hope that your week has been going well, and I will see you in the next video.